dealing with, yet distinct from the Aboriginal peoples of the land. So that must be comprehended and understood. And when you look at the Constitution for the United States of America, you must look at the obligations and duties that are put in place to secure the rights that pre-exist of both the Aboriginal peoples, i.e. the true Americans, and the obligations and duties in force relative to all treaties, etc. And that would be in the nature of Article 3, Section 1 and 2, and Article 6 of the Constitution for the United States, and Article 4, Section 4. And they should be reviewed by people to put some of the things that are being said in this session both to rest and into proper perspective. And so the literary and the political convolutions, that have been constructed here at North America is well known by historians and scholars alike. And some of these notations that are going to be presented to you tonight are to put some of these false concepts to rest, and also to assist the true Almadacans, known as Americans, who are the natural people of the land, in a more realistic estate perspective of all hereditaments associated with and connected to the aggregate and organic land, America and Americans. So your estate, America, extends from the 18th degree north latitude to the 54th degree south latitude here at Midgard Earth. In relationship to the political operations at North America, particularly civil jurisdictions or the exercise of civil jurisdictional powers on the land, have been no doubt known by all of you and most people who are seriously trying to solve some of the problems that are befalling the people now politically and economically. You must know that and put in perspective that the United States of America, as far as the hybrid Europeans' participation relative to treaties and constitution on the land, etc., at North America, was dissolved in 1800s. And so I'm going to go to some of the congressional records to put things in perspective so that the concepts that you see exercised by many of the people of the land, exercising rights that already existed with them, and then you see in many instances where many of the hybrid Europeans who've been claiming to be Americans are exercising judicial powers and authoritative powers and sovereign powers that are not vested with them or in them, and in fact having no authority whatsoever to exercise any political powers or political activities whatsoever. So let's go to the congressional records to give you and share with you some foundations for you to have some comprehension of what's going on in the political scene, particularly relative to the status of the true Americans, the copper complexion people of America, who are the Americans, and other people who claim to be Americans are not Americans, so that we can start solving some of these economic, social, and political problems that are befalling the people. Now, the dissolution, this would be on page 94. The dissolution of the United States of America. And keep in mind, the United States of America is a political acronym. So when you're talking about the United States of America, we're not talking about the United States of America, Mexico. And we're not talking about the United States of America, San Salvador. We're not talking about the United States of Brazil. All of these are the United States of America. So understand that the United States of America is a political metaphor. We're discussing, at this point, the United States of America corporation activities taking place at central part of North America under the auspices of what is usually known as the USA or the United States of America, absent of a national name. If you recognize that there's an absence of a national name when they make reference to the operations at North America, distinguished from, say, Canada, which is an affiliate under the Queen with the United States Corporation, absolutely distinguished from Mexico, which are Americans. Now, so when you say the United States of America, you'll never hear them be referred to as United Statesians, which would be proper since that's the name of that political platform. But by the operators representing the political operations out here with reconstructed history, we'll share some records with you to put things in perspective. Now, the Congress operating for the United States adjourned Sine Die on Wednesday, the 27th day of March. And so you see that that's 1,061 or 1,861. And you also know that the hybrid Europeans altered the calendars to throw the people off. So when you're looking at the treaties, peace and friendship with the United States, you'll see two different dates. We'll not go into that immediately because I want to save this time for some points that we're making. But you have an alteration of roughly 581 years. So you must put that in perspective. That's another thing for you to look at whenever you're looking at chronologies of operations at North America, that much of what you've been told is really out of sequence. That's not accidental. That's a deliberate activity. So the Congress for the United States of America adjourned Sine Die on Wednesday, 27th day of March, 1,861. And this political fact is expressed and documented for the record in the Congressional Globe and printed on page 1526, dated March the 28th. Now, Sine Die is derived from Old Norse Latin, meaning without day, without assigning a day for a further meeting or hearing. Therefore, Sine Die means a final adjournment, a final dismissal of a cause, and quod it sine die, that he go without day. And thus the corporate United States of North America was legally and factually dissolved on March 27th of 1861 AD. Now, I'll give you part of the congressional records in support of what is presented to you. Adjournment Sine Die, this from the from congressional records. And as a matter of fact, when I went to Washington in 1984, and I got some of the records because I already knew that many of the people around us have been compromised. And keep in mind, your three-letter agencies always infiltrate any organization or group of people that are enforcing treaty and constitution due to the fact that they know they're operating under a color of law. And they know that most people have not been aware of that due to their miseducation set forth by the Satanist societies led by John D. Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates, and particularly their General Education Board set forth in 1902, where they reinforced their practice of educating humans under what is known as animal husbandry. So this is the record. And so what I did, I took the documents that I got from Washington D.C. and I want you to see as a counter to those who I knew would counter me as I begin to share this information. I actually photoshopped the print directly from the records rather than retype it, so that when they do the research, they could see it for themselves. And that's this right here, in that box. That's why I put it in that box. Adjournment Sine Die. Mr. Powell, from the committee appointed to wait on the President of the United States and notify him that unless he has some further communication to make, the Senate is ready to adjourn. Reported that the committee had waited on the president and been informed by him that he had no further communication to make to the Senate. Mr. Foster, I move to take up, the resolution which I submitted a short time ago, an adjournment without day at 15 minutes before 4 o'clock. Mr. Hale, I move that the Senate do now adjourn sine die. The motion was agreed to, and the Senate adjourned sine die. At that point, the United States of America was dissolved. So when people talk about the economic problems that they're experiencing today with the private commercial paper or private commercial paper notes belonging to the Jesuit order and to the Pope of Rome via the Federal Reserve, etc., are controlled by the Satanist societies, secret societies, for the enforcement of the unum sanctum operations of the Pope of Rome, under the unum sanctum operations and the Spanish Inquisition against the Moors, and the conquest of the Western Hemisphere, known as under the military code of the conquest by Columbus, etc., which is not so much a man as it is a military operation. For the Jesuit order, which is a military operation and has nothing to do with spiritual development whatsoever, never did. And from these improper constructs came most of your three-letter agencies that now actually rule at the Maghreb and have been causing the wars in the different nation states around the world, particularly in Africa and Asia, as they have already, conquered the Maghreb or the Western Hemisphere. And so that must be put in perspective when you go into these things. And the other thing that I want to bring to your attention, and this is in relationship to many of the so-called because this is a nom de guerre construct, the so-called black community is a branding concept. It has nothing to do with bloodline, pedigree, or African people. It has to do with a branding system constructed to separate or to cause what you call political disassociation, as well as mental psychic attack, disassociation of African peoples from their land here in America, which is Al-Marak, the Maghreb, etc. And to support the reconstructed history that has been put forth by Satanist writers and scholars in order to secure the psychological warfare and psychic attack programs that are necessary to disinherit it and to disenfranchise the true Americans from the land and from what you would call any grounded or solid political activities or hereditament claims, etc., or estate claims, commonly just simply referred to as to enforce colonial operations. I want to go into the original article of Amendment 13, and in particularly, I'll read through it with its 20 sections, and this comes from the congressional records. And I want you all to take note of Article 12. And this is to put in perspective the actual status of the Aboriginal people here, distinguished from what you've been told in both the reconstructed history books and also that you've been told by people who have been assigned by the conquerors to help miseducate the people, to disconnect them from the land. etc. By promoting what you would call the 14th Amendment civil rights Negro citizenship status, which is a total and absolute misrepresentation and a total fraud. Below, and I also can't say this from the original print. That's from the original print. That's not a retype, that's original print. The original 20 sections of the 13th Amendment from the pages of the Congressional Records, Article 13. Section 1. All persons shall have the right peaceably to assemble and worship God according to the dictates of their own conscience. Section 2. The use of the public press shall not be obstructed, but criminal publications made in one state against the lawful institutions of another state shall not be allowed. Section 3. The right of the citizens to free and lawful speech in public assemblies shall not be denied. Access of citizens to the ballot box shall not be obstructed either by civil or military power. The military shall always be subordinate to the existing judicial authority over citizens. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall never be suspended in the presence of the judicial authority. Section 4. The militia of a state or of the United States shall not be employed to invade the lawful rights of the people of any of the several states, but the United States shall not be hereby deprived of the right and power to defend and to protect its property and rights within the limits of any of the states. Section 5. Persons held to service or labor for life in any state under the laws thereof may be taken into any territory of the United States south of north latitude 3630, and the right of such service or labor shall not be impaired thereby, and the territorial legislature thereof shall have the exclusive right to make and shall make all needful rules and regulations for the protection of such right, and also for the protection of such persons. But Congress or any territorial legislature shall not have power to impair or abolish such right of service in said territory while in a territorial condition without the consent of all the states south of said latitude which maintain such service. Section 6. Involuntary servitude, except for crime, shall not be permanently established within the district set apart for the seat of government of the United States, but the right of sojourn in such district, which persons held to service or labor for life shall not be denied. Section 7. When any territory of the United States south of north latitude 3630 shall have a population equal to the ratio of representation for one member of Congress, and the people thereof shall have formed a constitution for republican form of government, it shall be admitted as a state into the Union on an equal footing with the other states, and the people may in such constitution either prohibit or sustain the right to involuntary labor or service, and alter or amend the Constitution at their will. Section 8. The present right of representation in Section 2, Article 1 of this Constitution shall not be altered without the consent of all the states maintaining the right to involuntary service or labor south of latitude 3630. But nothing in this Constitution or its amendments shall be construed to deprive any state south of said latitude 3630 of the right of abolishing involuntary servitude at its will. Section 9. The regulation and control of the right to labor or service in the other states south of latitude 3630 is hereby recognized to be exclusively the right of each state within its own limits, and the Constitution shall not be altered or amended to impair the right of each state without its consent, provided this article shall not be construed to absolve the United States from rendering assistance to suppress insurrections or domestic violence when called upon by any state as provided in Section 4, Article 4 of this Constitution. Section 10. No state shall pass any law in any way interfering with or obstructing the recovery of fugitives from justice or from labor or service, or any law of Congress made under Article 4, Section 2 of this Constitution, and all laws in violation of this section may, on complaint made by any person or state, be declared void by the Supreme Court of the United States. Section 11. As a right of comity between the several states south of latitude 3630, the right of transit with persons held to involuntary labor or service from one state to another shall not be obstructed, but such persons shall not be brought into the states north of south latitude. Section 12. The traffic in slaves with Africa is hereby forever prohibited on pain of death, and the forfeiture of all the rights and the property of all persons